I received a question on Facebook recently, and I received many questions like this that are always asking about the brain and consciousness. And this question in particular is about why do I need a separate I or the subject to actually perceive something? And isn't the brain just generating that sense of I? And the person who gave me this question, it's a really, really long paragraph, and it's talking about all these like parietal lobe and frontal lobe and all these different terms and areas of the brain, decoding the information, neural circuits, and all that stuff. And so I gave this person a very simple response because, in truth, I don't know the answer to their question, and I'm not scared to admit that. I gave them a very simple response. I said, "Hello, you're complicating it too much with learned knowledge and concepts. Go back to before you knew any of them. Stand here free of knowledge. Consider only knowing. Right now, something knows experience, of which the body and the brain and the frontal lobe and this and that are all just a part. Something is aware. What is aware? Don't go looking for this answer with thoughts. Look with your attention. It's the only thing that will make inquiry genuinely possible for you. And it's the one thing that allows understanding to develop. Otherwise, you will remain entangled in these mental questions. It's simply another mental trap. Yield to the simplicity of this teaching." And I know this answer probably frustrated this person, and it may frustrate many of you, especially you intellectuals, people who, have perhaps even a great scientific background. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with psychology and learning about all the different types of the parts of the brain and this and that. However, one thing I will say is that if you wish to develop your understanding of what the teaching is pointing you to, you truly must be a simple person. Just for at least the sake of this inquiry, for the sake of this moment in which you are initiating the inquiry, you must be a simple person, simple man, simple woman. You see? And there's even a quote, and many teachers have said this, but something similar that Nisargadatta Maharaj said. He said that this teaching is only for the simple man. The more intellectual you are, the more you have all this learned knowledge, the more it often becomes a limitation, because it makes you go into questions like this, which then keep your attention going into further and further questions. You even answer those questions, it brings no clarity. It only creates 5 more questions. And that's something that I've, even had conversations with friends about, and something that I've realized in my own experience is that going into this teaching, I barely knew anything. I wasn't good at anything. I wasn't good in school, didn't know much. And that in a way has been such an advantage, that has allowed just a total surrender to the teaching, a total acceptance of the pointers in which understanding could develop. And it is something that I recommend to anybody that claims to be very complex. In truth, it is your mind that is complex, which there's great identification with. And what you need is to yield to the simplicity. If you refuse to yield to the simplicity, then you will learn a lot about the non-dual teaching. You will explore it to its depth because you do find it interesting, but all you care for is just the concepts. You say you want understanding, but all you want to do is just dwell in the concepts, and you want to understand the concepts. But real understanding can never come through any answer, whether if I give it to you or somebody else or some book. or some other video. The real understanding can only come by you going directly to what the teaching is pointing you to in experience. By yielding to the simplicity of the pointers, rather than arguing with your mental arguments. Watch the arguments arise. The teaching literally instructs you to even watch the arguments arise and recognize that there's an awareness of them. Here and now, don't go into ideas about what is it that is aware. Don't go into your learned knowledge about, it is this part of the brain or this part of the brain that is taking in this information and decoding it, and all this is just learned knowledge. Did you come into this world with all this learned knowledge? The learned knowledge has some relevance for certain other areas of life, but not in this teaching. Here and now you must stand empty, naked, completely clear of all that you have accumulated, of all that you have gathered, and be willing to just look at this one fact that right now something is alive, something is aware here and now. Don't even go into the body is alive or this is alive. Just something is alive, right? Something is aware. Something is the knower of experience. And you must have this genuine curiosity as to what is it that knows? What is it that is aware? To what does experience appear? This curiosity and the silence that it cultivates, that it points you to, is where any understanding that you really desire can actually develop. It's almost like an antenna, right? Antenna, if it's pointing a certain direction, it may not receive anything. But if you're pointing it in just the right way, now something comes in completely clear, and you hear it or you're watching it. So just in that similar way, the silence that is cultivated, that the inquiry is a means to, this quietude, is like you tuning your antenna to which the entire understanding can now flow through and be recognized. Not as just a mere mental answer, but a sort of a true insight, wisdom, understanding, in front of which all these little concepts and ideas and arguments and doubts starts to dissolve. So this is my invitation to you here today, to yield to the simplicity of this teaching. You have great conviction in your concepts and in all your learned knowledge. There's great belief in it. Let that be. No one's telling you to get rid of it. But just here, in this moment, for the sake of this inquiry, you must do so. You must be free of it. You must stand free of it. Pick it up later, but here and now, be free of it. Because doing so will actually make your learned knowledge come into greater perspective, greater understanding. If you don't yield to the simplicity, the silence, the quietude of this teaching, then, the non-dual teachings, they're just another hobby for you. They'll just become another interest, another hobby, but they will never really bear fruit. Here and now, be empty, be quiet. I'm not interested in any non-dual teachings. Half the questions in all the non-dual teachings, I could care less about. The only thing that I genuinely am interested in is the very simple little fact that here and now, I am aware. What is this I that is aware? And it is in this question that all my complexity has started to dissolve. It is in this question in which the clarity that has made life peaceful and happy has arisen. And so this is the clarity, this is the silence that I ask you to trust, because I am equally sure that it will produce the same in your own experience. So you must trust if you have to in the beginning, until over time there's experience and there's conviction. So I hope you take my invitation, because it will only make your experience and the experience of the teaching itself much simpler for you. And it will boil down all this complexity into just one simple little thing. Good luck.